Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This is Georgie. I'm the marketing director at Girl Friday Productions, and I'm so excited to have Katherine Kayne here. Whoop. She is the author of Bound in Flame, which is a book that we did for her last year. So, hi Katherine, how are you?
I'm great, Georgie, and so glad to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much for your time today. So I really wanted to just chat with you as a part of our Lunch and Learn series because I think a lot of people might be indie publishing curious, but perhaps they don't know what it's actually about. So that's the whole goal for today. But before we get there, I wanted to start with, can you tell all of us your self-publishing origin story? Like, how did you come about deciding to indie publish your own book instead of going traditional?
Well, it was an interesting journey. I have a number of friends who've been traditionally published, so I got lots of good advice. But what's happening right now is the publishing industry is changing, and it's changing dramatically. So when I began to really look into it a couple of years ago, before Band in Flame came out, what I learned was if you have something that might be in a niche, they may or may not be interested, and you get traditionally published, but you may not get their full marketing arm behind you. And what I realized is that because I believed I knew who my readers were and how to reach them, I'd be better off if I went on my own, that I could probably get farther, faster, with a better result on my own. And I was able to make the investment.
Wow. And as far when you were looking at indie publishing, did you look at hybrids or were you fully going indie all the way?
I looked at hybrids. I actually had offers to go traditional. I had offers to go hybrid. And what I realized is that I prefer to have control. This will be a long series of books. And that the risk of going with any other organization besides my own was a risk I didn't want to take. I wanted control.
Yeah. And what I know about your book that I love that you said was that because it was so personal to you and it's about Hawaiian history and these powerful women, that you had such respect for that culture that you wanted to make sure that it was handled in the appropriate way. So you didn't want to give up that right to protect this place that you love so much, that's so meaningful to you, not alone, and then your work obviously, but more the place and the history of it.
Exactly. And I actually had, there's a thing called an R&R in the publishing industry where the editors will give you a revise and resubmit. And I had two of those where both the changes that I was asked to make were things that would have been inconsistent with the historical work I had done with women in Hawaii who were telling me their family stories. And you gotta stick with what you believe is the right story.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to mention just really quick that Katherine is on an island, so the internet connection might be somewhat intermittent. So
Yes,
okay.
I'm on an island because I love islands.
Just constantly surrounded by water. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So you went into indie publishing. You were like, I can do this. I'm the boss of my book. What was the best part of your experience that you had in indie publishing in general?
I think the thing, whether it's in your traditional, when you suddenly realize you're finding your readers, the people who get what it was that you were the story you were trying to tell with your books, that moment is really, really special. And here again, because I went indie and was able to, for example, spend some time doing promotion in and around Hawaii, I think I found that sweet spot sooner than I might otherwise have found it.
Yeah. So that was the best part. What was the worst?
Wow. That I'm one of those people that doesn't necessarily remember what was the worst. I can tell you what was some of the things that were hard, but they were hard in a good way. For example, working on the cover was hard because we really wanted to get something that we'd be able to carry the flavor of over the entire series. Also, because my heroines are mostly women of color, it's impossible to find good cover art. So we had some real challenges. I love this cover, and it's won awards now, and I am thrilled that we went the extra mile to get this cover created. So mostly there were things that were hard, and there were things where I wished I had somebody just to tell me what to do. I mean, you do miss that. That, I think, is probably the biggest challenge of going independent. You wish that you had some kind of editor who just said, no, this is how we're going to do it. Well, I had to make all the calls at the end of the day, and sometimes that was difficult.
Yeah, but you did have an editor at GFP and access to editors. But I kind of feel what's nice about, here's my shameless plug for Girl Friday. What's kind of nice about it is that we can give you the advice and you can take it. Like, we're professionals and we deal with indie publishing, yes, but at the other side of our house deals with traditional publishing. So the same people that are perhaps editing a book for someone that you know could be editing your book. It's the same high quality, but you have the choice that you can say, no, I'm going to go my own way, or yeah, that's a really great idea. So I totally agree with you, though. If someone told you what to do, it's kind of more, you know, you don't have to doubt yourself or something like that, because you're like, oh, they're the expert. But here you really do get the choice, which I guess is good and bad. So when you went in,
it's just harder, you know. I would say I wouldn't. At the end of the day, for me, given how this turned out, it was good to be forced to make those choices and forced to live by those choices.
Yeah.
It was.
And what did you get? And you can be totally honest here, Katherine. What did you get? Because you and I spent lots of time together, which I'm so thankful for, doing the marketing plan. And how did the marketing part kind of land with you in indie publishing and Girl Friday? Was it too much information? Was it too little? Did you ever feel overwhelmed, or how did that land with you?
Well, I'm fortunate in that I had a business background where I'm accustomed to working with strategic thinking. And what was so great about the Girl Friday process is that it helped take what I already knew and really hone it into a strategy we could take action on. Mm-hmm. So what I found it really freeing. There were, you know, there were lots of choices, but there was always clear guidance where I could sit back and go, I see why will be the best choice for what I want to accomplish with this book. It was really a great process.
Yeah, and your book in particular was like a genre skewer. Like, it wasn't really straight up romance. And, you know, we tried to find, you know, the perfect spot for it, if you remember, I know you do, is where would the categories go? So what did you get out of that process? Because I know maybe you started off thinking it was straight up romance, but we kind of ended in a different spot.
You know, for me, part of the process was getting over the fact that I thought I was just going to get into this romance genre. And the nice thing about being in the romance genre is you get on the train and you go, right?
Yep.
But this book, which is, like, we joke about it being my vision quest, but it is, doesn't fit. And it meant that we just had to be patient while we learned. I mean, one of the things that I thought was really great about the process was setting me up to give me permission to throw some stuff against the wall to see what stuck. Because when you cross genres, it is very difficult to predict. It's very difficult to predict. But what were the things to try, and how do we amplify the ones that we have discovered do give us good traction? I mean, one thing we learned, which had begun to come up in the research that you did, is that there's a very strong women's fiction element in these books, even though they are theoretically romances. And that takes you in a whole nother direction.
Right.
A parallel, but a strong one.
Yeah. Well, and I loved that you were open to it, because I'll never forget when I first heard about your book, and I loved it because I think you wrote this, that it was like Frozen meets Charlie's Angels with a bullwhip. And I was like, what? That's awesome. Like, I need this book right now in my life. So that's what's so great about it. So you went through the process, and I want to ask you, where is your book now? Like, what's the outcome? Because the book came out, now it's been some time. So what happened to Bound in Flame?
Well, when you indie publish, if your fantasy is to be a New York Times bestseller, that's almost impossible. And that's one of the things that people need to like get. What you are doing is building an author career and an author pipeline. And what you are doing, if you do it right, is building a band of readers who will read your books over and over and over again, who get who you are and what you produce. So I knew with Bound in Flame that what we were going to get out there is the beginning of building that group of readers. So I'm very happy to say that the book is continuing to sell, though it's really slowed down a lot with COVID-19. People are just having trouble in a lot of respects, and that's difficult. But I'm hearing constantly from readers going, when's the next one coming out? When's the next one coming out? And that is exactly what we were hoping for, is to be able to find those correct readers, the right readers, and give them the flavor of this new way to think about Hawaii and magic, and have them coming back for more.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. And I know that with just the success of this book inspired in something that maybe you hadn't planned, which was this kind of in-between novella about one of the characters in here. So that's so great that it was basically fan-driven.
Yeah, I'm writing my own fanfic. It's the way somebody put it, is basically I had so many emails from readers saying, tell us about this character and where she got her gun. And because there is a character with a gun. And so A Pistol in Paradise will be out this fall.
Oh my gosh, is that the name?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have not heard that until this moment. Breaking news.
That's the title. So, but it seems it is a pistol and it's in paradise.
Right.
So.
Right. That's hilarious. So, and then addition to that, which is wonderful, obviously, is the awards that you won, like for the cover design.
Yes. The book has won a total now of, well, we'll go through them. One of my favorites, of course, is because it's equestrian, we won a Winnie from the Equus Festival.
Mm-hmm.
The book was a finalist for the Book Life Prize, sponsored by Publishers Weekly.
That's huge. That's a huge one.
It's a huge one, and the judges were very, very complimentary. I may have to get what they said tattooed on one wrist. We just got the news that we got an honorable mention from the Eric Hoffer Award. We got silver medal from the Ippies. And then the one you're referring to, which is we're a finalist for the Da Vinci Eye, which is the cover design award. So already 5 awards, and maybe more to come.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that this is just the beginning of this series, because I do think that that is key when I talk to authors. Like, certainly you can do like a one and done situation, but I think the real success is exactly what you're doing. You start with this one and just build and build and build, because it is such a great read. So I did have a question that someone wrote in about, which is, what's your best self-publishing advice? If I came to you and said, what do you wish you knew at the beginning that you know now, what would it be?
Well, I think the advice I'd give, this is for any author, not just a self-published author, is to be generous. Do things for other people, reach out, support other people's books, support other people doing good work on the topic that you care about, whatever it is you're writing about. Be out there writing reviews so that when the time comes, people will say, hey, I know who she is, and she does good stuff. It is a huge thing in the author industry. I see people all the time that go, well, why don't you write a review of my book? And it's like, well, have I heard of you before? Do I even know who you are? You have to do what you need to do to pave the way. Plus, it's an incredibly wonderful community. You'll be glad you got involved. You get a lot of and moral support. There's like a Twitter hashtag called the 5 a.m. Writers Club. So if you get up early in the morning to write and you put your hashtag in, you get pulled right into the community. And it's a generous kind of a thing. So that's my advice to people, is just be out there, be generous, support other people and wish them well. And you know what? They're going to wish you well.
I love that. Yeah. I always say it's more of a community rather than a competition, because there's so many unique voices out there that there's not going to be one like yours. So I always feel like there's room at the table for sure. That leads to the last. Yeah, that leads to the last question that I had for you, because so many indie authors, I feel, at least that I've been working with, are really focused on getting praise quotes. And you got some really great ones from traditionally published authors and authors well known in like books set in Hawaii or in your genre. How did you get those praise quotes? Are you willing to share?
Well, the joke is I stalked them. The reality is they are people whose books I'd reviewed and supported over the years. And so I was a known supporter. And so when I made a request, they were willing to do it. I think what many independent authors don't understand is traditionally published authors, often as part of their contract, are not allowed to read unpublished works. So you really can't get a praise quote until you've gone as far as having created an arc, and you can get an official arc in someone's hands. But it's, it's like anything else in life. You don't ASK, you don't GET. I certainly had people that I asked that I got no response from.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great. Well, I thank you so much for your time today, joining us from your beautiful location with the beautiful, colorful fish.
Fish on my head. Fish on my head.
Fish on your head. And we can't quite see. I know that you're sporting that moo-moo just to stay on brand. There we go.
Yeah, got flowers to go with the book.
Which I love. Well, thank you so much. I hope you're well. And thanks to everyone joining us. And it's been really great seeing your face. So thank you for your time, Katherine.
Take care, Georgie.
Okay, bye.
So are you going to check the recording?